I tried 8 mascaras, some of which are a little bit newer than others. Some of these came out during the Sephora sale, which is when I got them, which was the Mario, the Prada, the Benefit, and the Too Faced mascaras. I did get those 20% off, and the Kulfi mascara as well. And then I saw Moira Cosmetics came out with 2 mascaras, so I wanted to try these out. They are very affordable. And then also Maybelline came out with the Colossal Bubble, so I'll be talking about each of these mascaras. I'm going to be showing you an application, and I'm also going to be ranking them at the end of the video. But first, none of these mascaras are waterproof, so definitely something to keep in mind. If you have lashes that are very stubborn and they don't want to hold a curl, then none of these will hold a curl for you, which usually is the case with non-waterproof mascaras. I have very stubborn lashes, which is why I do a lash perm. So let's actually start out with the most affordable mascara. So there are 2 from Moira. One is in a light pink tube and the other one is in like a brighter tube. So the light pink one is Maximum Volume and Lifting, and then the other one is Intense Volume and Length Mascara. The main difference between these looks like it is the brush, and I will get more into detail about that. And each of these retail for $7. The next mascara in line that is full size, that is $12.99, and they do actually have a waterproof version of this, so I'm curious to try that eventually once my lash perm is gone. I do definitely want to try it out. It does have worse reviews than the non-waterproof version, so that makes me even more intrigued later on to try it. I did buy this on TikTok Shop. It was an exclusive when they first launched it, and they do now have it on Ulta's website. The next 5 mascaras are all over $20, and you can find them at Sephora. However, 2 of these are available as minis, which they're $16 each, and otherwise they are $29 full size. And that is the Ribbon Wrapped Lash from Too Faced and the Bad Gal Bounce Mascara from Benefit. So I do have the minis of these, which it shouldn't be any different. It's just a smaller size for less money, but $16 for each of these is still so much money. I feel like usually the smaller tubes are $13, even with some of the more higher end brands, so I'm not sure why these are $16, probably because they just want you to opt for the larger size. Next in line is the Kulfi mascara, which this one is $26, and then after that is the Makeup by Mario, the Master Mascara. This one is $28, and then the most expensive mascara is of course Prada, and that one is $35, which is so much. I do want to point out it does of course have the nicest packaging out of all the mascaras, since it is a higher end brand, so this feels kind of like it has a little bit of like a texture to it, so it's really nice. It's actually, I feel like it makes it a little easier to grip onto as well. And then you have the Prada logo in like a little bit of like a soft silver metallic, and it's raised. There are 2 tubing mascaras, which is the Kulfi and the Ribbon, and it's actually really interesting because they both have the same exact applicator, which has the little prongs at the very top. And it's also interesting that they launched at the same time, pretty much, maybe within like days or a week of each other, but of course that doesn't mean that the formula is the same by any means. So let's get into all the demos of the mascaras, and I'll be ranking them at the end of the video, so let's get right into it. First up is the Prada mascara, and this is what the brush looks like. So it has bristles only on one side, and they have a dip kind of in the middle, so this one is kind of more like a comb or a brush. Definitely think that there is quite a bit of product that picks up on it, but I feel like I wish it was maybe just like a little bit smaller. I'm really hoping it's not going out of focus too much, but I'm just gonna add a little bit more. I do like how it brushes the lashes and it coats them really well. I think it did a really great job. I did get a little bit on to my lid, but that tends to happen when my lashes are permed, which they're kind of coming out of a perm a little bit. You can kind of see this one lash is starting to sag down a little bit. And I put it on my lower lashes as well. It's really hard to put on mascara on my lower lashes on camera, so I did it off camera. But here is what the mascara looks like. Next up is the Makeup by Mario Master Mascara. This one has a bit more of a regular bristle brush. These definitely don't look like they're plastic, and they look like they're pretty short, densely packed bristles. A lot of product came out on them, and it is tapered at the top. I feel like, I don't know if I can tell like huge difference between how they apply. I feel like with this, I'm not really getting into the lashes as well. I feel like I'm like really coating the outside of the lashes, if that makes sense, because the bristles are so closely packed together. You can kind of see right here, just kind of clumped together. and it's kind of hard to brush out because of this type of brush. So I apply the mascara on the lower lashes, and then I use this brush to get them to separate a little bit, and I feel like these lashes just really want to stick together when I went back in with the mascara, so it might just be partially because of my lashes are, I guess, more clustered together there. But here is the final look of the mascara, and then here they are in comparison. I don't know if I see that much of a difference. I feel like for how much this one is, I do think maybe it lengthened my lashes a little bit more. And I definitely had an easier time with the brush on this eye. Here's the Benefit Bounce Mascara. So it has kind of more rubber bristles on one side, and it kind of curves with the bristles on the other side. So the curved side has kind of regular bristles, not rubber bristles. And it does not hold a curl for me, but I do have my lashes permed. But I did just want to mention that. Hopefully it's focusing. But it's just my camera doesn't like it when I'm moving something near my eye a little too much. So I'm using the curved brush side because I feel like I prefer this side for application for sure. And here's what that looks like. I think that's actually pretty nice. And then the bottom side, I mean, I think it just like helps separate them a little bit more maybe. I don't really see a purpose, to be honest. I'm going to go back into it, and then I'm going to do the lower lashes, which are really hard for me to do on camera. Try not to get anything under my eye, but hopefully it can stay focused down there. I feel like I prefer the rubber side on my lower lashes because this is curved and it just feels really awkward to get down there. Here is the Too Faced Ribbon Wrapped Mascara. I have the mini of both of these, the Benefit as well. And this one has rubber bristles even all the way around, and it does taper down. And then it has those little prongs right at the top, similar to the Kulfi mascara. And I do really like this one. I feel like the way this brush is, it's really easy to use. I think realistically speaking, you're not really going to be using the bottom of it. Like, I don't know if some of these mascara wands need to be that long. But I think it's going to depend obviously on your eye shape. But I do like this one. I feel like the wand is not too large and too like thick and hard to get into the different areas. So I'm going to do the lower lashes. I feel like those are a little harder. And you could of course use the edge of you could use the top of the mascara, which I actually really like using that more so on the inner lid part versus on the lower lashes, because it's gonna take a bit to coat everything. It was a little bit more messy with this one, but here's what that one looks like. And it also does not hold a curl for me. Next is the Maximum Volume and Lifting Mascara from Moira Cosmetics. This has a pretty large wand, definitely looks like a thicker type of formula. And it does not look like it's rubber bristles. It looks like it's the regular plastic bristles. And it has a lot of them for sure. And it does kind of curve, so it's a little bit wider on the top and bottom. And then curves inwards, shorter on the inside. And because the mascara is so large, I definitely feel like I need to make sure I'm not getting too much of my bottom lashes at the same time, because then they will kind of stick together. So if I just kind of wiggle, I think it's pretty nice. I did use both the Moira mascaras already in a video. And I have used them off camera, of course, as well. So I feel like it's doing a nice job of separating my lashes. But the more I keep going in, the more they're kind of clumping together a little bit. And here it is on the bottom lashes. So I think that gave me a lot of length for sure. But I'm not really seeing any volume at all, which this one claims to give volume. The next one is the Intense Volume and Length Mascara, also from Moira. And this one kind of tapers in a little bit at the top. It has pretty dense bristles, and a lot of product comes out on this wand. This looks pretty messy already. And this is from a couple of uses, and it's definitely on the very thick side, which I do tend to prefer usually. Definitely prefer this brush. But I don't know if I feel like the formula is really different between these two. It's really the brush. Okay, I'm just gonna wiggle a little bit at the base and then go out. Like, I feel like it's doing the same thing as the other one. But maybe, yeah, it's kind of starting to clump them together. So this is definitely like a put on a coat, just coat your lashes and that's it. Don't really keep going back and forth. And here's what that looks like. It looks pretty much exactly the same as the other one. Maybe a little, just a tad bit more volume here, but that could also be because maybe I have more lashes on this eye. Because I doubt that I have the exact same amount of lashes across both of my lash lines. So I feel like there's not really a big difference between these two. And neither of these hold a curl for me if I don't have my lashes permed. Something to definitely keep in mind. Like, they're not bad, but I'm not really like reaching for either of these mascaras. Here is the Kulfi Betty Lash Mascara. And this one definitely has rubber bristles that are longer on the bottom and they kind of taper down. It also has the prongs at the very top, which is where kind of like a lot of the product kind of bunches up at the top as you pull out the wand, which you could wipe against the edge of the tube. And these actually look like they're kind of further spaced apart than a lot of the other bristles on the other brushes. So I already know that I really like this mascara. This is a tubing mascara, so this one does come off in the kind of like little pieces of like plastic almost. I don't know how else to explain it. But I do really like this one. I feel like I can keep layering this. And then you can use the little prongs on the top to get really in there on the inner lashes. And I love that it's not like really clumping my lashes together a little bit once like I really go in there with a lot of coats. But you can kind of build it up to where you want it to be. And then here it is on the bottom lashes. You could also go use this, which I just got a little mascara under there, unfortunately, but I think this wand is really nice and easy to use. I usually don't like rubber bristles, but I do really like it in this case. And I feel like you can just see my bottom lashes are so good, especially compared to some of the other mascaras. So I really love this. I feel like my lashes look really nice and fluffy. They're kind of sticking a little bit together here and there, but not in like a really weird clumpy way. They still feel separated. They still look, like I said, really fluffy, which is what I really like in a mascara. I wanted to make my lashes look fluffy. And this last mascara is from Maybelline. It is the Colossal Bubble Mascara. And this one has really interesting bristles on it. They're plastic bristles. I don't really think they're rubber. And they kind of spiral up. And they have quite a bit of space in between them. And then it tapers down to almost really, really short bristles at the very top, if any. And something about this brush shape is so good. And it does seem to be a thicker formula. And I just love this. This was definitely like a love at first use type of mascara. I would say it's even maybe thicker than the Kulfi, but I feel like it's very similar in formulation because of the way that it makes the lashes look. It definitely is like a super fluffy mascara. This one does kind of stick lashes together a little bit, but I could pretty easily kind of go in, and I like that this top section is pointy. So I could kind of go in from different angles. And here it is on the lower lashes as well, which it really accentuated by lower lashes as well, like the Kulfi mascara, which is why I like it so much. And you could see my lashes look pretty fluffy. Now, I didn't get a chance to try this mascara out pre-lash perm, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to hold a curl for me, as it is just a regular non-waterproof mascara. They do have a waterproof version of it though, which I'm very intrigued to try once the lash perm kind of straightens out. But like between these two, I definitely feel like they're very, very similar, but obviously the price tag is different. I do want to preface this ranking with saying that most of these do kind of flake to a certain extent. None of these really give me overly raccoon eyes. I have experienced slight wearing underneath my eyes depending on the concealer that I'm wearing and also depending on the powder that I'm using to set my under eye concealer. So I don't think it's necessarily the mascaras. I've worn all of these mascaras to the gym and I had a really great wear time on them. The only time they do start to crumble is if you touch your eye, if you touch the mascara, if you have to adjust your lash. It's kind kind of like you're initiating the crumbling, and that was my experience across the board with all of these. In last place is the Moira Maximum Volume and Lifting Mascara. This is the light pink one. It is really mostly because I don't like this brush. It is a chunky brush. It is kind of like an old school brush. I feel like from 20 years ago, this is the mascara wand that I remember seeing in a lot of mascaras, and it's just too chunky. It's harder to use. In terms of formula, it's definitely a thicker formula, and I feel like I cannot really find a difference between this one and the other Moira mascara, which that one is ranking just a little bit higher in next place because of the brush. The brush is way better on this one. I like that it's smaller. I prefer the way the bristles are on it, and I like that it tapers in. So I feel like both of these, the formula seems almost identical. It's really the brush shape that is the difference. I don't see myself wanting to reach for these outside of testing them for this video. I also don't think that they were good enough for me to want to repurchase, even though they are so affordable. I just would much rather repurchase some of these other mascaras in this lineup. So moving on to the next place, mascara, the Too Faced Ribbon Wrapped Mascara. I do like the wand on this. It is exactly the same as the Kulfi mascara, as I mentioned. I don't think the formula is the same, even though they are both the only tubing mascaras in here, but I just feel like this one, it doesn't do the same thing with my lashes that I love with the Kulfi mascara, which is make them much more fluffy. So that's why this one is a bit lower, because I just feel like some of these other mascaras give me a better look to my lashes. They fluff them up a little bit, they lengthen them, but with this mascara I just didn't really feel impressed by it. And I feel like usually with mascaras I can usually tell within the first 3 uses if I really like the formula or not, if I really like the brush or not, and how do I feel about my lashes after applying it. So that's why it is on the lower end. It's also not a mascara I would consider repurchasing. In the next place is the Makeup by Mario mascara. I think this is a really solid mascara. That being said, I did experience a little bit extra flaking with this one than with some of these other mascaras. I do really like the formula overall. I do think that because of the way the bristles are on this brush, I feel like it's just not as good as some of these other ones. I don't feel like it really separates my lashes and creates that fluffy effect as well as the other brushes, but I do like it. I would not repurchase it. It is so expensive. It would just really have to kind of knock my socks off for me to want to repurchase it. At $28 is definitely a steeper price, and also with the flaking. Next up is the Benefit Bounce Mascara. I do have to say I really like the theme of this one. I feel like it's really clever. The packaging is really interesting as well. It looks like it's inspired after a balloon animal, and I really like that. I just enjoy the overall branding of this one, but I really like the brush on this one. I don't know if I really care about the other side. I do think it's easier to use for the lower lashes, but overall I do prefer the curved brush side of this one. I think it really nicely just hugs the lashes and helps separate them. I also think the other side of it, because it is rubber bristles and they're a little bit further spaced apart when I use them on my lower lashes, I just don't quite get the result that I would like, especially compared to the mascaras that are in the top 3. I really feel like those really do an amazing job on both my top and bottom lashes, which is really important that both of the lashes kind of match. So in third place, which I can't believe, is the most expensive mascara, the $35 Prada mascara. I just really like this brush. I think it's super interesting, and I really like that the bottom of it is blank. So you only have the bristles on one side of it, and I just feel like that makes so much sense because, like the Bounce mascara from Benefit, it's like a comb for your lashes. So I do really love this brush. I think it's really easy to use. It's small enough, but it separates the lashes. It makes my lashes look really great and really fluffy. It's just really expensive. So I would not be repurchasing this one by any means, no stretch of the imagination. I think this one would have to completely blow me out of the water in order for me to have even considered wanting to spend $35 on it, but I just don't think that that's really realistic for a mascara, which is something that you really should be switching out every 3 months. So it's just not realistic, but it is a really nice mascara. I really like the brush, and I'm excited to see where mascara wand brushes overall take us, because I feel like there's been quite a bit, especially amongst all these 8 brushes, I feel like there's been quite a bit of a step up, and maybe the brush doesn't have to go all the way around. Okay, top 2 mascaras. I think these are pretty neck to neck, but one of them has just a little bit extra oomph. So the second place is the Kulfi Baddie Lash Mascara. Really like this one. This was like a love at first use. Absolutely love it. It does crumble a little bit, again, only if you really like get in and you're messing with your lashes, if you touch your lashes or something like that. But I've worn this mascara so many times. I've worn it to the gym, I've worn it all day, and it really was a non-issue for me. I kept wanting to reach for this mascara over and over again. I do really like this brush overall. Again, the Too Faced mascara has the same comb, but this formula, this formula is way better. It just really fluffs up the lashes. You can keep going and coating and coating. It separates the lashes. It makes them look really long and fluffy. Also really easy to use this wand, and the lower lashes will match my top lashes. So really, really, really love this mascara so far. I would repurchase this one, but the Maybelline Colossal Bubble Mascara just wins it all. This one, again, love at first use. Just love this one. I only when I reach for this one, I do sometimes alternate with the Kulfi as well. However, this one is just chef's kiss. Consistently beautiful lashes. Again, none of these hold a curl for me. Something to keep in mind. When my lashes are permed, this is the mascara. There's something about this brush, something about the way that the bristles kind of like swirl up is just super smart. There's no extra really bristles on the very top compared to the Kulfi mascara, which I don't really feel like I miss it necessarily. Just something about this. I love this mascara. I love the way that it makes my lashes look super fluffy, super elongated, especially on the lower lash line as well. And it is just my go-to. Does it crumble sometimes? Very, very sometimes. Only just a little bit if I end up rubbing my lashes by accident or something like that. But I have worn this mascara so many times. Again, worn it for 12 hours plus. I've worn it to the gym, and it has consistently just been the superior mascara out of all of these. I would 100% repurchase this one over and over again. I think this is my most favorite mascara so far of all time, minus my waterproof ones, because again, I can't use this one when I don't have my lashes perm because it will most likely not hold a curl. I highly doubt that it will. I haven't tried it yet. They do have the waterproof version. I definitely plan on picking that up and trying it out. I'm really hoping that it will be just as good, but it will hold a curl. And also it's $13, so I don't feel like I'm breaking the bank. So let me know in the comments below if you've tried any of these mascaras, what you think of them, which one is your favorite. I would love to hear your thoughts. So I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.